I'm Hardy Blake, pastor of the Ardmore LaSalle Church of Christ and founder of Project Impact South Bend. And we're here to talk about the Martin Luther King celebration. And the theme of that celebration is Heal the Dream with Truth, Justice, and Love. The need to heal the dream automatically implies that the dream is sick or ill and needs healing. The illness is severe enough to cause death if not treated properly. And what is the diagnosis and the cause of the dream's illness, or what is it that has made the dream sick? To heal means to cure, to mend, repair, to nurse, to settle, to reconcile, to restore, rebuild, and to rectify. Because you cannot heal the American dream or Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream with lies, injustice, and hate. Therefore, we must heal the dream with justice, truth, and love.
Hey, thank you. And I'm Darrell Heller, the director of the IU South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center. And although COVID required that we postpone our formal big MLK Day, we thought it was important that we acknowledge the importance of this day and the contribution that Dr. King made to our country and our society. And so we're inviting you to participate with us between now and February 21st, when we have rescheduled our formal MLK Day presentations.
And I'm James Summers. I'm serving as Executive Director for Project Impact South Bend. And we want you to participate by sharing with us the many good things that we are working on in our community that help heal the community as we speak of truth, justice, and love.
Yes.
So between now, today, and February 21st, we'll create a method for you to be able to send in information about what you're doing. Then we will share that with the community so that others can see what's being done, and so that we as a community can do more and more and continue along this healing path. I want to say just a few words about truth and the dream itself. To heal the dream, we really do need to be genuine and speak the truth. And that means that we have to be honest that sometimes we attempt to correct things and do things right, and we suffer some unintended consequences that might actually do harm. Well, the uncomfortable truth is that we may have done harm, and rather than pretend that it didn't happen, rather than describe situations in ways that are not true, we need to actually be honest about what happened, when it happened, how it happened, acknowledge the harm that was done, and then reconcile with those who were harmed, and then make an effort to not do the harm again. The other challenge we have is that sometimes we enable that harm by saying nothing, by doing nothing.
Yeah.
By pretending that it didn't actually happen or that there was no harm.
Right.
Not being willing to talk about it. That in and of itself perpetuates the harm. That enables that harm to happen again.
Yeah.
If we are to heal, we have to live the truth. We have to speak the truth. We have to be willing to acknowledge the humanness of ourselves and our failures sometimes, and then turn around and move forward in a better way. I encourage you to describe to us the ways that you're doing that in the community, the things that you're involved with that help bring out that truth. And I think that's going to have a great impact on the future of our community. Darrell?
Thank you. And I think following up on James with justice, this truth-telling is a critical component of justice. The justice that's required for historical injustice cannot be accomplished by a single act, much less by a simple apology. Justice itself is a process that entails several steps to repair the harms that have been perpetrated. It requires acknowledging the harms that have been done and taking responsibility for the impact that those harmful activities had on others. Remorse, in the form of a sincere apology to those who have been harmed, has to be coupled with actions to repair that harm, ideally guided by those who've been wronged and with the voice of those who suffer the injustices, participating in shaping what that repair will look like. This can take many forms, but all require some form of reparations to correct the disparities and inequities which have been produced by that harm. And finally, true justice, as James noted, requires that the conditions that produce the harms in the first place, whether structural or interpersonal, are transformed to prevent harms from happening again in the future. So what we'd like to do is invite you to think about what historic injustices have taken place and how you can offer creative solutions to turn injustice into justice.
I want to talk a little bit about love, with James with truth and with justice, and love being the ultimate. So I want to read a couple of excerpts and quotes from Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, as well as from his speech that goes beyond Vietnam, talking about a time to break silence. And in his I Have a Dream, he says, "Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, and so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day, on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." King also says, we must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. King also says, in A Time to Break Silence, is a true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. On the one hand, we are called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, but that will be only an initial act. He says a true revolution of values, that one day we must come to see that the whole Jericho road must be transformed, so that men and women will not be constantly beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. He says, true compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs to be reconstructed. A true revelation of values will hang on the world's order and say, and a true revolution of values will lay hand on the world's order and say of war, this way of settling differences is not just. The business of burning human beings with napalms, of filling our nation's homes with orphans and widows, of injecting poisonous drugs to hate, poisonous drugs of hate into the veins of people normally humane, of seeing men home from dark and bloody battlefields physically handicapped and psychologically deranged, cannot be reconciled with truth, justice, and love. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. A genuine revolution of values means, in the final analysis, that our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Every nation must now develop an overriding loyalty to mankind as a whole in order to preserve the best in their individual societies. He also says, finally, he says, this call for a worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concerns beyond one's tribe, race, class, and nation is in reality a call for an all-embracing and unconditional love for all of mankind. This oft misinterpreted concept, so readily dismissed by the Nietzsches of the world as a weak and cowardly force, has now become an absolute necessity for the survival of man. When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I'm not speaking of that force which is just emotional bosh. I'm speaking of that force which all of the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is sometimes and somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. This Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist belief about ultimate reality is beautifully summed up in the first epistle of St. John. Let us love one another, for love is God. And everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. If we love one another, God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. Let us hope that this spirit will become the order of the day. Finally, we can no longer afford to worship the God of hate or bow before the altar of retaliation. The ocean of history are made turbulent by the ever-rising tides of hate. And history is cluttered with the wreckages of nations and individuals that pursue this self-defeating path of hate. Love is the ultimate force that makes for saving choice of life and good against the damning choice of death and evil. Therefore, the first hope is in our inventory must be the hope that love is going to have the last word. Thank you.